Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Taking Style Personally. This is my YouTube channel where I talk all things sustainable and attainable style. And today we are here to chat about some winter musings, some inspiration for the season. We're gonna have a look at my mood board, talk about some of the ideas, the colors, the textures, and the silhouettes that are speaking to me as we head into a new season. This is absolutely not a trend prediction or trend dissection video. This is personal to me, what I'm into, what I'm feeling inspired by. I really like to kick off each season by assessing what I've been wearing in the previous seasons, what I was wearing at this time last year, things I want to explore more, things I want to move on from, and just kind of getting an idea of some of the themes that I'm curious about or excited to explore in my wardrobe and my personal style. I've got my notebook here. I've also got my phone with my notes app, with my Pinterest board. I kind of start those three touch points simultaneously. I've always got a Pinterest mood board with imagery for the season, and then I've got in my notes app just kind of little ideas off the top of my head, like things I'm into, things I'm curious about. And then I like to do a seasonal musing, little like brain map kind of an idea. I just write down what I'm into. And I always break my inspiration down into color, texture, and silhouette. Those, like when I'm working with clients in one-on-one personal styling sessions, I teach those three as like the simplified elements of style. And I really encourage everyone that I work with, everyone that I know, everyone who's watching, to break your inspiration down and investigate your inspiration so that you're able to clearly understand and then eventually articulate why it is you like what you like. And starting with the color, the texture, and the silhouette is a great place to kick things off if you see an outfit or something that inspires you, rather than the initial impulse being like, oh, I need that thing. I really like to try to shift that initial reaction to be like, ooh, why do I like that thing? And once you're able to investigate that a little bit further and understand that, it's so helpful for your personal style because you're not tied to any specific thing. You're more so working with ideas, which are more fluid. It's easier to find those ideas secondhand because everything in fashion is cyclical. So that's how I like to break things down: color, texture, silhouette. And then separate from that, I'll have a wish list, and then any other just kind of random ideas or random styling notes or things that I've just sort of seen that have caught my eye. So let's get into it. I had some words and some goals that I kicked off the year with. My personal style words are metamorphosis, connect or connection, refine, and play. So those always kind of connect to my seasonal inspiration as well. So I'm always working with the big picture. I am always aiming to connect style and storytelling. That's always my goal. So those are kind of my four big words. And then for winter 2024, 2025, the words that really stick out to me are nostalgic, cozy, and unexpected. So those are the words that I want to lean into with my everyday, day-to-day outfits. So we're going to break things down: color, texture, silhouette. So I have this personal color story that I use all throughout the year, and it doesn't really change much season to season or year over year. It's pretty consistent for me and has been for quite a few years. These are the colors that I like to wear. But what I do have is wild cards, and those are usually colors that aren't a part of my typical color story, my typical color palette, but I like them, or I'm curious about them, and I want to give them a try. And I always recommend, if you have colors that you're curious about or interested in, but you're not really sure where to start, and you don't want to jump in both feet and like buy a coat that's purple, but you like purple and you're interested in it, start with an accessory. I really intentionally wore this scrunchie on my wrist so that I wouldn't forget to say that. And actually, a cheeky little silk scrunchie is such a great way to just inject that little pop of a color that you're curious about. I really love this deep, beautiful, rich teal, but I just wasn't really sure where it would factor in. I wasn't sure if I would wear it. And historically, I'm the kind of person who, like, I'm a lover. I love color. and I love textiles and I love clothes and I'm a thrifter. So I would see something at the thrift store and think like, oh, I love that color. And I would bring it home with me and it would just like sit on my rolling rack staring at me and I would never reach for it because it took me a long time to differentiate between liking a color and wearing a color. And so that's why I created this palette. These are the colors that I like to wear. I've proven that. I wear them all the time and I feel good in them. It's not that any colors outside of this palette are like off limits or not allowed, but for me and the purposes of my personal style exploration, I really was at a place where I wanted to be more intentional with what I was bringing in, and I didn't want to just keep collecting cool things at the thrift because I liked them. I wanted to be bringing home pieces that I was actually going to use. So a great way to dip your toes in and see if you like a color. Maybe it's a silk scarf, maybe it's a bag, maybe it's a pair of socks. Something that's low stakes, something that's easy to acquire in the color that you like is a really great way to just sort of see how it plays with the rest of your palette, see if you like it, and if you don't, then like no harm done. It's a scrunchie, you can wear it to put your hair up at night, I don't know. Do what you will with it. So I have two main wildcard colors for the winter. One has a couple different tones and one is just a standalone. This teal is one of them, and also it's kind of brighter cousin, like a kind of 90s turquoisey aqua color. I have this bag that I made a couple of years ago out of some yarn that I thrifted. It's kind of a standalone, like an outlier in my wardrobe, but I really find that I reach for it a lot during the winter, especially with my beautiful chocolate brown wool coat. It's just so fun to have a little pop of color and texture. I also have a really beautiful tie-dye sweatshirt in this color that I wear all the time. So I already have a few pieces that I'm working with that are in this color kind of family, this deep teal and the brighter turquoise. But I want to lean more heavily into that. I'm feeling inspired by them. I've seen a couple of images lately that I included in my winter mood board that have these colors, so I really want to experiment more with them. Maybe what that will look like is knitting a toque or a scarf, or finding a beautiful pair of like fuzzy Angora socks like in this particular image. This image just like grabbed me and I haven't stopped thinking about it. The mismatched socks, I love it. Anyways, that's kind of my first color, is this teal / turquoise. It feels really 90s, and I especially love the way that it plays with red, which is one of my baseline colors. I wear red like it's my job, and I love the way that those colors play together. My second wildcard color was actually a bit of a surprise even to me, but it just kept coming up and I couldn't deny it. I'm curious about pale pink, and historically, I have been anti-pink for me personally. I love it on others. I will occasionally play with like a hot pink or like a fuchsia, but not often. But pale pink is a color that I just have never felt connected to for myself and for my wardrobe. However, I have not been able to shake my curiosity, and so it's something I need to explore. I'm gonna do what I said earlier. I'm gonna find an accessory or a pair of socks, something low stakes. I really like the way that it plays with a few of my core colors. I love the way it looks with chocolate brown, I love the way it looks with navy, and I love the way that it looks with gray. And I find in the winter especially, my clothes, it just leans so dark. It's like dark at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's why I've got this ring light on. My clothes are dark, like a lot of my outerwear is dark, and I just feel like I miss some brightness, something to bring a little bit of that color into the mix. I think will be interesting. Okay, we're moving on to texture. I'm talking curly, fluffy Mongolian lamb. I'm talking fuzzy Angora socks. I'm talking corduroy. I'm talking tweed. I'm talking boiled wool. I'm talking fleece, flannel, maybe even some sporty nylon ripstop. So many different textures have been catching my eye lately. A lot of them are kind of the usual suspects for me. I wear corduroy like it's my job in the winter. I'm always wearing cozy, cuddly wools. I do not currently have any fluffy Mongolian lamb in my wardrobe, and I am desperate for some. And I'm also still interested in studs and grommets. This is something that I talked about for my fall musings. I haven't found anything just yet, but I'm still into it and I'm still thinking about it. And that's kind of why I like doing these seasonal rundowns of inspiration, because the idea is not that I'm like turning off the camera and then buying one of everything that I've just talked about. Like, that's not the goal here. I might not find anything this season. It might be something that I don't actually see come to fruition until next year. But I like being able to have those ideas distilled so that when I am thrifting, I know what I'm looking for and I don't get sort of pulled too far off the trail. It's nice to sometimes let your intuition just kind of guide you at the thrift, and maybe you come across something that you never could have planned for. That's, I think, why a lot of us love thrifting and shopping secondhand. But I do feel like I need some parameters for sure, because if I had my way, I would just bring every cool thing home and have a museum, and I've not got the space or the money or the time or the energy, so I have to make my lists. So those are the textures that I'm thinking about. That's what's on my radar texture-wise. We're moving on to talk about silhouette. I don't really have a ton to add for silhouette. I like to keep things pretty slouchy. I like to keep things pretty oversized for my body. That's just my preference. But there are a couple of things that have been on my radar that I want to explore this season. One thing specifically that I'm kind of halfway through making, I've been knitting away. I really want a poncho. I want something that's simple, easy to just like toss over and add a little layer. Another thing silhouette-wise that I'm interested in is a really high straight across neckline. I've been seeing some beautiful kind of almost cape feeling tops in like a boiled wool, which is one of the textures that I'm into. And I think that could be really interesting, really beautiful. That would be something that would be very DIY-able if I could find the right fabric. I feel like at this time of year, I always feel inspired to sew. And I've got quite a few fabrics stacked up that I'm going to try to chip away at over the holiday break. I might try to source some boiled wool and see what I can whip up. And I also thrifted a queen size flat sheet in flannel in this beautiful heather gray. And I'm gonna make myself a cool pair of slouchy barrel leg pants to replace these ones that are my favorite. I love these pants more than I could ever possibly express, but they are maybe 2 washes away from just disintegrating into dust, and I need to replace them. So I've got a thrifted flannel sheet, and I think I'm gonna whip up another pair of those. Speaking of things that I want to whip up, we're going to touch on that really quickly. We've done color, texture, silhouette. Some of the things that I want to do, I want to knit a bonnet. I'm also working on a jean DIY, kind of like a Franken jean situation inspired by these. I have a couple of sweaters that really need some repairs. And I also have a couple of things in the dye pile. Overall, though, one of my personal style goals was to really tackle my project pile. It was truly overwhelming at the beginning of this year, and I have made such a significant dent. I'm so pleased. Actually, I'm wearing one of the things that I recently tackled. I dyed this sweatshirt, and unfortunately, when I dyed it, some stains came to the surface that weren't visible before the dye, and I was so bummed about that. It had some really like yucky, unsightly splotches all over it, but I took the opportunity to do a cute little DIY and I covered it in buttons and beads and little pearls from my collection, and I'm so into it, and I've been wearing it non-stop. Okay, some other kind of rapid fire ideas that I'm interested in. I'm loving stars as a motif. This is a carryover from fall. Still very into it, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to incorporate that, but it's on my radar. I'm really into beads, always. No one's surprised to hear this. I'm literally wearing a sweatshirt covered in them. But I'm specifically into adding beads to the strings of my hoodies. I used to do this kind of circa like 2019, 2020. I'm bringing it back. I'm very into asymmetry, mismatched earrings, this sock tuck trick that we looked at earlier. Another thing that I'm really into that I guess I should have mentioned during texture, but I didn't, so here we are now. I'm into metallic. I am obsessed with these beautiful metallic socks, these like laminated silk socks. love. And I also love the idea of a slouchy metallic bag, something simple. I've also just been loving kind of an unexpected metallic touch. I've seen a couple of images on Pinterest with a really casual, cozy outfit with gold clogs or silver clogs. I love that idea. It feels really fun and playful and in line with my unexpected style word for the season. I'm still obsessed with dressing like a stick of dynamite. If you can see my little knees down at the bottom here, doing it today. I can't get enough. I just think it's so much fun. Still into buttons. No one's surprised to hear that. Something else I'm really into is headbands. I've made the courageous decision to grow out my French bob. It has been grim, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's starting to be long enough to do like a chic collar tuck, which is really all I could ever ask for. But as it kind of hits awkward length after awkward length, I'm looking for solutions that are not just throwing it up in a claw clip every day of my life. And I think headbands are an interesting thing to play with. My friend makes these really cool ones with grommets, and I love that idea. I feel like that's something, again, tying back to one of the textures I'm into, studs and grommets. There's something interesting to be done there. Okay, we've gone over everything that was in my notebook, but there are a couple of other ideas on the Pinterest mood board that I want to talk about so quickly, and then I'll let you go. The first, leg warmers. I'm into it. This is something that I'm going to knit, and I feel like it's perfect because I have so many beautiful balls of thrifted wool. I've got some gorgeous like hand spun wool from Salt Spring Island that I thrifted. I feel like that would be really cool, just in a neutral color, a pair of leg warmers. I think it could be really interesting to tuck in some of my slouchy pants. I'm really into that look, the kind of, I'm seeing it mostly with boots, but boots are just so hard to find. So I feel like I could kind of achieve that same slouchy tucked in feel with a pair of leg warmers. Clever, clever. One last thing on the mood board. I guess it fits in kind of, it almost scratches a similar itch to the Mongolian curly lamb, but I'm really into marabou feathers. I would love to find like a beautiful vintage feather boa. I feel like could be so fun to play with. Or maybe even just finding a little tuft of feathers at like a craft store and making a brooch. That actually could be a great way to inject pale pink. Maybe it's like a pale pink feather something. I don't know, but I've got ideas. Oh, I actually love that idea. I'm gonna be doing so many projects over the holiday break. I'm really looking forward to it. It was so nice to sit down and talk all this through with you. It's just been rattling around in my brain. It's so nice to share. If there's anything that you're feeling really inspired by as the seasons are changing, I would love to hear about it in the comments. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them there as well. I hope to be back very soon. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more sustainable and attainable style.